Good morning and welcome to TMS Book Club. My name is Sewela Langeni from Book Circle Capital. We're an independent bookshop that focuses on African literature, and today I'm super excited to talk to Nozibele Mayaba, author of Positively Me. Nozibele is a mom, is a TV presenter, a podcaster, a speaker, and now author of this new book, Positively Me. Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you. I am so excited. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much for being here. So, Positively Me is a book about your life story, being diagnosed with HIV in your 20s, yet overcoming and living today positively to come tell the story.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of history. Why the need for the book?
Well, I was diagnosed, as you say, in my early 20s. I was 21, 22, and I was at work. It was the last thing, honestly, on my mind when I went to a Wellness Day event, and we were encouraged, obviously, to test. It was a shock, and hence, for a long time, I hid my status from my family for about 6 years because of fear of being, stigmatized, but also just the sense of I didn't want to disappoint my family. So I kept it to myself, and you can imagine it was really tough to try and navigate that journey alone, because shortly after my partner and I broke up and I needed to deal with all those emotions. I remember particularly when my counselor said, just document different stages of your journey. At the time it was more encouraged by letting it out, because I felt like I did not have the platform where I could share how I was feeling. And then over time, I thought to myself, I was getting to a point where I was healing. I was coming to a point where there was some sort of stability again in my life. And I wonder how many people have gone through what I've gone through, and how many people have felt alone in this journey. I'm hoping, by possibly, it would be a dream to publish a book.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, there's so much at stake.
Yeah.
If I publish a book, then that means I'm going to have to tell my family. I'm going to have to tell my mom. How is she going to react? But I was quite blown away by how many people resonated with my story.
Yeah.
Because before the book, I shared my story. I had I'm Still Me. I had my YouTube channel where I came out officially about my HIV status. And I was surprised about the number of people that resonated with the story, but were afraid and still afraid to come out because of a fear of being victimized or stigmatized. So that's the journey around my HIV diagnosis and behind the book.
Thank you for this book, because you're so vulnerable in telling your story and just authentic in sharing the experience, and hopefully others can get help from that. But you don't only talk about HIV. In your first chapter, you talk about, how I met with Tatako, which is your mom's words to explaining your history. And you say that you're a pick-me girl. You were always waiting to be picked, and your father wasn't really in your life because of the context of his relationship with your mom.
Correct.
And that always made you yearn, and you kept on waiting for this love. What did that do to you growing up?
So to bring more context, my brother and I were born as a result of an affair between my mom and my dad, and my dad was married. And there are certain procedures, certain things that need to be done to officially, welcome acknowledge and welcome this child into this family. But it gets a little bit complicated when the nature of how this, these children came to this world is being questioned, and also it was quite hard to navigate that. But also particularly as a girl child, there's a special relationship that a girl has with their dad, and I didn't have that. And also the identity, if there's no sort of acknowledgement or validation, it becomes difficult for a child to know which family do they belong.
Where do I belong?
Right? Do you use the father's name or you don't use the father's name? In my case, we were allowed, it was acceptable for us to use his clan names, but not his surname. For most part of my life, I felt like I was always in the middle. I didn't know where I belonged. And that really impacted me in terms of my self-esteem. And so for a long time, that's where this overly the top personality, I walk into a room and I'm the loud one. You can't miss me. You can't miss a personality. That's where it came from, because I yearned for that kind of validation from somewhere, and I didn't get it. So I was going to seek it somehow everywhere else. And I do believe, to some degree, relationship-wise, I always looked for my
Yeah.
father,
Yeah.
and hence probably some of them did not work out.
Yeah.
So it definitely had an impact on me.
In the book, you also talk about your relationship with your mom. You always felt like she pushed you harder than, you know, was necessary. Nothing you did was good enough. And I wondered, how's your relationship with her now?
It's evolving. It's evolving. Today is a good day.
Yeah.
I think it was very important. I could never, justify telling my story without telling hers.
Yeah.
Because who I am is her great, like it's her influence, right? It's how she raised me. But also finding myself in the book was also finding her or discovering my mom in a new angle. What influenced her? How did she grow up? How was it like losing her parents at a very young age and being forced into a situation where she gets married quite young to find some kind of stability, being, physically and emotionally being abused by her in-laws because they thought she could not have children. Then moving into Port Elizabeth, meeting my dad and having us as children, what she thought would be her, her fairy tale wasn't her fairy tale. Now she's branded as the other woman among many other women, right? So I understand now it doesn't make it right, because I feel like I definitely need to highlight that. But I do have some kind of understanding and empathy that, hey, she also did not have an easy life. That's why in particular she would push me harder. But I think there was a part where she forgot that I was also a child, and I'm also my own person with a totally different identity. So I mean, it's quite hard to also influence a mom in her old age, so it's a matter of, how do I also protect myself, but in light also how I continue to understand her position and where she comes from.
Yeah, and I gather from reading the book that your relationship, your faith in God is quite central to who you are. You talk about it throughout the book, and you acknowledge that a lot that you've gone through, you wouldn't have been able to enjoy if it wasn't for it. Speak to us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I mean, we all grew up in a household where our moms or our parents forced us to go to church every Sunday. So at first it was forced, but over time I'm so honored and I appreciate that I got to develop my own relationship with God. So when I was, absolutely. So as I was going through all these challenges, whether it's HIV diagnosis or whether my identity and who I am, I centered it around, who does God say I am? And I found comfort in the matter of where I felt strongly God saying, I'm going to use the story in such a powerful way that it's going to inspire and change so many people's lives. And I truly believe it has done that.
What would you like readers to take away from Positively Me? Beyond, because you're an activist in your own right for HIV, and even though we've reached all the right targets, what are some of the stuff you want people to take away from the book, especially, the young people?
One of the inspirations behind me coming out was to remind people that there's no face towards HIV. There's so many dynamics that people just need to appreciate people's individual journey, and the fact that until there's zero infections in our country, or actually in the entire world, we cannot get tired of having such conversations. It's about also just zooming into our interventions when it comes to HIV. Are they really actually representative of the realities of our communities? We live in one of the most patriarchal societies in the world. We live in a country where there's the highest GBV rate in the world. Those things affect how we introduce interventions in our society. I will make a silly example. A woman is tested for HIV when they found that they're pregnant. A man is not forced to do that. A man goes and tests when they feel like testing, right? And then there comes a dynamic where the woman goes back home already empowered to take ARVs and all of those things. We're leaving a whole, a population behind. Because we're not dealing with what once again the realities of our society. So these conversations need to come back into 2024, and they need to be addressed.
Thank you so much, Nozi, for writing those books, for telling your story. There's so much more to Positively Me, and we have copies here at Book Circle Capital. For TMS Book Club, it's been me, Sewela Langeni.